thing. Can I tell you, I am fired up for this series we're doing for the next month. It is going to be awesome, because here's what I believe. I believe that God is on the move, and he wants to actually change things in our lives. Does anyone else believe that? And actually, I don't think that this series is special. I think anytime we come together, what does the scripture say? When two or more are gathered, he is with us, right? So I think every time we gather, no matter where it is, God is with us, and he wants to do something in us, right? He wants to change who we are. And I really hope that when you come to church, you come with that kind of in your mind and in your heart, the idea that we can come and God is up to something and he wants to do something, because that is the truth. And so this series, this 5-week series, I've actually asked 4 other people, hey, you know what thought, what idea about God fires you up? You know, like that one idea that keeps you up at night in a good way, because you just are always thinking about it, that idea, that concept. And so that really is creating the foundation for what this series is going to look like. You're going to hear from some different voices over the coming weeks just about that thought that fires people up about God. Now, today, I'm going to share a thought with you, one of my thoughts that just kind of fires me up, but I've recruited some help. And so would you guys put your hands together and welcome Amy Banbury to the stage? Woo!
You owe me big time. Like huge.
Is she off too? Are you,
It says I'm on.
says you're on? Doesn't say you're muted, does it?
I don't know. I don't know how to work this thing.
I don't know how to work it either, obviously. Okay, so I owe you big time. You're
owe
right.
Because I don't do this, and I will sing up here for days, but public speaking is like not my thing, and so I'm gonna vomit more than likely. Yeah.
You can do it.
Oh, we'll see.
All right, well, I do owe you big time. I'm going to start sort of my payback now.
Woohoo! That'll work.
Here, I'm going to make sure it's all kind of, you kind of want that bottom part kind of shaked off of there. I at least do. I'm a little bit OCD about that.
Just give it to me.
There you go. That's
Thank you.
It's good enough.
Here.
And it's even still sealed, so it's like for real.
Cold? You didn't do that. Bethany did that. You didn't do that.
What?
Go out
I
there and
totally
do
did that. Actually, the church, you did. You gave that to Amy.
Thank you.
But no, it was all me.
Thanks.
That's kind of my thing. So thank you. You're right, I owe you. One of the things, as I was thinking about this week in particular, is that this week, on top of your story, I think this week and the idea we're going to talk about fits really well with your family as well.
Okay.
And so there's going to be just a lot of things that click, and I think this is going to be a real blessing for everyone here. And so the thing we want to talk about today, my idea, my thought, is I want to talk to everybody about the prize.
Okay, I like prizes, so this is good. Heading in the right direction.
You like prizes?
Yeah.
Does everyone else like prizes? Yeah? In fact, here's the truth. We are always looking for a prize, aren't we?
Kind of like when kids want their parents to buy that certain kind of cereal because it's got that cheap plastic toy in the bottom of the box.
Exactly. And you know what? It doesn't matter if the kid even really likes the taste of the cereal, right? Or if there's any nutritional value at all. It's like, look, an airplane that doesn't fly because it's heavy plastic, right? Or whatever it is. I don't know. Or a top you spin or whatever. Now, come on. We're in church. We're supposed to be honest, right? So who here has ever asked for, or even maybe, come on, you can be honest, purchased a cereal because you wanted the little prize inside? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I think some of you are being a little dishonest this morning, but I think God will forgive you.
That's kids, though, and we get older and wiser, don't we, as we get older, and we don't fall for that cheap prize trick, right?
I wish. Don't you wish? It's sort of like this. This is like the foundation of every romantic comedy movie that's ever been made, right? It's like you're kind of with the person you're not sure if you love, but they have the right job, they make the right amount of money, they come from the right family, right? There's all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you meet the person that's like the love of your life, and you're conflicted. What should I do? Should I marry the person I don't really love, but they have the right family and make the right amount of money and are in the right tax bracket? Or should I like marry the one I love, right? Because we want all those things, right? It's not enough just to like marry the one you love. They got to have all the other stuff. We want the prize. Or has this ever happened to you? I'm terrible at this. I don't advocate for this. You guys know I sold cars for 6 months. And I always tell people when they come to me and say, how do I get the best deal? I'm like, look, there's not that much markup in new cars anyway. So if you spend forever getting the best deal and hose the person who sold you the car, who that's their livelihood. So instead of making $300, now they make $150. And then you want them to help you every time you go back. And you like, I'm not like, but I'm also bad at wanting the best deal and like working every angle and playing this person off against that person. And then if you ever done that, you negotiated like the best possible price. And then we do this, right? We want the price. So we're like, okay, I will buy the car if you throw in the all-weather rubber floor mats too. Right? We're like, really? Really? Like you did all that and now like the $50 pieces of rubber are what are like the make or break sort of part of the decision. We do that though, don't we? Or one of my favorite authors who writes about marketing is Seth Godin. And he wrote this book entitled Free Prize Inside. And the whole point of the book is that he's sort of making the argument that, gone are the days where some little cheap gimmick is going to get it done. Like actually, I was in the store last night after we shared this message for the first time. And I walked down the cereal aisle. It's almost impossible to find cereal that has the prizes anymore, right? Because his thing is we got to like incorporate the prize into the product. It's not something, that's an add-on. It's like actually part of it. So now it's like our cereal is like Special K with coconut and mango and strawberry and almonds, right? Like the prize is actually built into the cereal now. And so that's kind of what he pushes there.
And while we all kind of want to get a prize, Jesus shares 3 simple verses in Matthew 13 that give us some important information about the ultimate prize.
All right, so we're going to look at this. It's really cool. Jesus here in these 3 verses gives us 2 examples. And so we're not going to look at them straight through, because what he does is he gives the example and then he shows us what happens, what kind of the follow through is of the people in the story. And then he gives the second example in the follow through. We're going to actually look at the 2 examples first, and then we're going to go back and we're going to look at the response of the people second. Is that cool? All right, good. Thanks. I was worried. It's like, is everyone asleep? Like, that's crazy. So Matthew 13, verses 44 through 46, here's how it starts. It says this: the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. So here, right up front, we're given our topic about the ultimate prize.
Which, from Jesus' perspective, is the kingdom of God.
Do you guys know this? Jesus talks more about the kingdom of God than any other topic. Like, this is sort of the major theme thrust topic for Jesus in everything that he says.
So what does this have to do with the treasure hidden in the field?
Well, this was a really common story in sort of the ancient world. In ancient literature, there's many, many stories of treasures that are hidden in places or fields, and people come across them. And so Jesus is actually telling us this for a very specific reason. And what we see happen, Jesus tells these stories, again, for a reason, so that we can learn something about what's really important to him. And so we'll see that in a couple minutes. But this is also where I thought of your family in particular.
Okay.
Because your husband, Brian,
Yeah.
like, he makes normal kind of outdoorsy guys sort of look lame because he's like pretty over the top, right?
Yes.
Does anyone know? He was here in the first gathering and he was like, woo, I'm a hardcore outdoors guy. So that's just sort of who he is. So let's think of this. How would Brian act if he was walking through a field? Maybe it's turkey season. He didn't get a turkey.
Right.
He didn't get a turkey this year,
No, he
did
didn't get a turkey.
So he's walking through a field, and all of a sudden, he stumbles upon this.
Oh, he'd be giddy. Yeah. I wouldn't hear the end of it, probably.
I think in the first gathering you said that maybe he would
pee his
pee
pants.
a little. Actually, when Brian saw the notes for this, he actually is like, well, hey, I got an arrowhead. Do you want it? Do you want it for a prop? So this is actually one of Brian's. Here, look at that. Like, it's perfect. So your husband actually has one of these, right?
Yep.
That's kind of, again, he's a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
So let's like take it to the next level. He's also a hunter, right? So does anyone know what shed hunting is? It's when you go out because it's the time of year where the deer have shed their antlers. So you go in search of antlers. So what if he was out hunting for sheds and he came across these ones?
Oh, yeah. They would probably replace me. He'd love them and cuddle them and take them everywhere, probably.
They would be like seat belted into the passenger seat in his car and everything.
Tucked into bed.
Yeah. So no, Brian had some of these too. So he's like, oh, I got some of those. These are his. Huh? Like, that's pretty awesome. Woo! Your husband is a little bit kind of crazy about stuff like that, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a little crazy.
So we get fired up about stuff like this, right? We get fired up like there's guys in here who, if you found an arrowhead in a field, that'd fire you up. Or if you found antlers, that would fire you up. But think about this. What if if you actually or me, we actually found a priceless treasure in a field? How much more fired up would we be, right? How much bigger would our response be than if we found some antlers or an arrowhead?
Those things are nice and they're great and all, but I think I can speak for the ladies here that those really don't fire me up. Like, I need something a little more shiny or sparkly, blingy, maybe.
I don't know. Like all there's no response from the ladies. Maybe they like arrowheads and
I know
antlers.
Rachel likes blingy things.
Oh, she does? She does? Cool. Remember I said there were two examples right here back to back?
Okay.
So let's look at the second, because that first one was maybe a little bit more kind of things that guys like. But the other one, I think, maybe leans a little bit more your direction, all right? So here's the other example. It says this. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant on the lookout for choice pearls. So what if you found a ridiculous pearl?
Okay, you're heading in the right direction. You're getting there.
Okay. So there was a set of earrings that a woman was given by her husband. And they noticed that in one of the pearls, there was some anomalies, right? It didn't look quite like the other one. So they took these two pearl earrings to have them appraised and evaluated. Now I'll show you the picture of the one pearl. So the other pearl was just a normal kind of made in a laboratory kind of, pearl. This one, which was the one that kind of had the anomaly, was the largest of its kind natural pearl that was found, 17.4 millimeters, which doesn't seem that big. And so the wife decided to auction it off. And in 2014, that pearl auctioned off for $1,186,707.92. If we could just get a hold of that pearl, we could totally cover like all of our capital campaign stuff, and that'd be great, right? So that's cool.
I would take that. But I don't know, pearls kind of aren't my thing.
Really? I kind of get that because my birthday's in June, and the birthstone for June is the pearl. And I've always kind of felt cheated. It's not like I'm really into gemstones at all. But, it's like, if I'm going to have a birthstone, it should be something cool looking, not like a pearl. By the way, for those of you who want to know and are like planning ahead, shopping ahead, June 8th is the day. Okay, just FYI. So maybe pearl's not the thing, but look at this next picture. What if it was like a diamond as big as your eyeball?
Yep, that'll work. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah?
That's it, yeah.
That hits?
Yeah, that hits it.
Or what about like if you had like unlimited Starbucks and like an eternal shopping spree with your daughter, McKenna?
Yep, that's awesome. That would work.
That's like speaking your language?
Yes.
So let's think about this. Here's what Jesus is really trying to do with this. He's trying to get all of us to think about something that we value. So there's options for guys, there's options for girls, depending on whatever your preference is. Think about with me, if you will, like whatever that thing is for you that is like the biggest prize, right? Like if you could just have this one thing, man, it is like worth it. You've always wanted that and you hope to have it someday. And then sort of take that, sort of the passion you think about that with, the pursuit, and replace that with the kingdom of God. That's how Jesus wants us to feel about God's kingdom. And so as we see what happens, what people's response is to these things, I want you to notice a couple things. First of all, the focus isn't on the value. In both of these instances, we're told that these items, the treasure in the field is obviously valuable, right? The pearl is obviously valuable. That's mentioned. But man, how many of us, if this was us, would be like, do you know how much that pearl was? Do you know how much it totaled this? And we would go in deep. The Bible really, that's not the important part.
And the focus is not on the luck of the one who found it either.
Is anybody like me? If I ever found like a treasure in a field, you guys would hear about it so much from me, it would drive you crazy. I'd be like, guys, do you remember? I was walking through the field and I thought I should turn left. But just something kept me going straight. And if I would have turned left, I never would have found that treasure. And maybe it never would have been. I would go on. And like, would you do that? Like, how lucky was that, right? You would too, right, John? Thanks, buddy. Thanks for helping me. The focus isn't those things. Really, the focus you're going to see here is on the subsequent action of the finder. So the people who found these things. Sometimes we think the goal is to find the thing of value. It's what do we do with that? How do we act after we find something of value? So watch this. We go back to the field example, right? The guy who found the treasure hidden in the field. What does he do? What's his action? Check this out. It says, in his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field. Now, I'm not so sure about this. Like, what would you do if you found a priceless treasure in a field?
Finders keepers, that'd be mine.
Anyone else do that? Right? Like I would. I totally would, right? Like this must just be mine, right? Like that's like it's way more expedient than like this pathway.
Right.
And so think about it this way. Legally, what should have happened here at this point in time, as Jesus is telling this parable, legally, what you should do if you find a treasure in a field is you should sort of let everybody know. You should announce it so that if there's a rightful owner, they can kind of come forward and say, hey, that belongs to me.
So this is the Bible. So do you mean that our example that Jesus is giving goes against the law?
It actually does. But really, again, biblically we have to understand, like, the intent means everything. And so the intent here isn't really about what's right or wrong. The intent here is about action. And the action is sell everything, which is really saying that this thing, whatever it is, whether it's a field or a pearl or whatever, this thing now becomes like the most important thing in life, right? Like everything reorients in that direction. Buy the entire field, which seems like a little bit of overkill. It's much easier just to take the treasure, right? But buy the entire field, which again, it takes a long time, right? Mm-hmm. It's the long way around, which really requires a lot more. But the other thing that we see here that kind of Jesus is hinting at is the risk involved. Because if you found a treasure, who here would actually hide it in a better place? Like if you were going to take this path, anyone here hide it in a better place? Like, I don't know, like you put it up the tallest tree that nobody can, right? Like, it's like, well, it's still kind of around the field, right? Like, I don't want someone else finding my treasure. And if you hide that treasure again, someone else could find it. Or it could become lost forever, and then who would that benefit? So there's this risk. And some people like feel this same sort of risk with the thought of reorienting their lives around God's kingdom, right? Like, what if I spend my whole life on this, and in the end, it maybe doesn't pan out, or it's not as real as I thought that it was. So there's that. So again, we have this idea. Listen to those words. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field. So here's the idea. The right prize comes with sustainable excitement.
And we always seem to want the shortest path and the easiest way around it, don't we?
Oh, we do, right? Path of least resistance. You grew up as a pastor's kid, right? Mm-hmm. So do you remember like when it wasn't just you have to go to church or listen to these sort of Bible things, but like you started to like have this like idea that Jesus was real?
Oh yeah.
And did you ever start to get like fired up and excited about Jesus?
Yeah, it was church camp.
Church camp, mm-hmm. Huh? Right. You
Yep.
want to share during the church camp series?
Nope.
We'll talk later. And so here's the thing. So you were fired up about Jesus like we all have been, are, were, whatever. But then did you have, like, as life continued, did you ever feel like maybe your excitement diminished or Jesus sort of dropped on the priority list?
Yeah, I hate the answer, but yeah.
Isn't it terrible how that works? Like where we can get so fired up about Jesus and then, oh, a shiny thing, an arrowhead, some bones, a pearl. Like we just get so distracted by so many things. What Jesus is trying to communicate here in this story or these two examples is that God's kingdom is so important that you and we've got to stop with this losing focus garbage because it's so much more important than everything else. We got to stay focused.
So what about the pearl?
You're always going back to the blingy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens, what the action or the response is to the person who's looking for these choice pearls. The text says this: when this merchant discovered a pearl of great value, he sold everything he owned and bought it. So not only do we see the same kind of sustainable energy and excitement, right, to like kind of do this kind of hardcore thing over a long period of time, but we also see this idea that the right prize is worth any and every price, right? Like think about that. Think about selling everything you own to try to attain one thing. So here's the question, and don't raise your hand, just think about this. Have you ever encountered something, or maybe in this example more appropriately, have you ever encountered someone who was so important, who meant so much, that you reoriented your entire life around that pursuit, around that person? I mean, your time, your money, everything. Because here's the deal. Here's what we do in our culture, right? We like get fired up about Jesus, and then we sort of tack him on. Well, I'll go to church. I might even serve. Like I'm hardcore, right? And we think that that's what Jesus wants. The scriptures talk none about living a life of faith in that kind of way. It's really more about this whole reorientation of our entire lives around the cause and the kingdom of Jesus. This is really what he wants. So as we think about that and we think about this ultimate prize, we just have a few thoughts we want to share as we close today. So the first one is this: many things can seem like the prize, right? Have you ever thought something was the prize and it really turned out not to be the prize? Yeah, right? So like for example, have you ever needed a car and you found the perfect one for the perfect price? I mean, it ran perfectly and everything. And so you're like, oh, man, I couldn't get a better deal on a better car, but I'm really not so sure that I'm gonna because it's the wrong color.
Hey, I love my blue car. The red car didn't match my eyes and my hair.
Right, and we do this, right? Like, isn't this true? Like, sometimes things seem like the prize. This is true with trivial stuff and important stuff. It's true with the plastic toy in the box of cereal. It's true with the color of our automobiles. And it's true with even more important things like relationships.
And as a pastor, it's got to break your heart to see lonely people dive into relationships that aren't healthy for them.
It does. But you know what? It also breaks my heart to see people like live life kind of under the crushing weight of loneliness, right? Like I get why sometimes we make horrible relationship decisions because we're really lonely. And you know, I don't know if I would make good decisions in those moments either. But here's what I wish for all of us. I wish this for you. I wish this for me. I wish we would turn to God more. Because when we have these really difficult moments in our life, here's what we do, right? We usually turn to God first. Oh, Jesus, I love you, I trust you, I need you. And then as quickly as possible, we sort of jump over Jesus and we get to the relationship because we have somebody or whatever other pursuit it is. We kind of seek all these other things that kind of maybe seem like the prize, but really aren't the prize. So I think we should seek God more, because here's a good rule for us to live by, I think. What feels like the prize usually isn't. Because our feelings are fickle. Our feelings lie to us. Who here has ever wanted something and then you finally got it and then you wanted something else? Right? Or like you got, like seriously, you're like, I got the truck or the motorcycle or the whatever, the ultimate thing. And then like a week later, the new model's announced and you're like, oh, I should have waited for that one. Like really, seriously. Like it seems like the prize, but it's not the prize. Which leads us to the second of these three final thoughts. And that's this. Add-ons can distract us from the real prize.
And we're pretty bad with this whole add-on thing as Christians, right?
Oh, aren't we? I'll come to Jesus and he will make me rich. Have you ever heard people say that? Or even, if I just lived life for Jesus, right, then I'd have more money, right? It's sort of like this. It's like Kevin Love, right? It's like if I follow Jesus, I can just dropping dimes, right? Have you seen that awesome commercial with little kid? Kevin, no? Okay, I'm sorry. You need to watch the playoffs. The Cavs are in the finals. Come on. Or we think this, I'll turn to Jesus and he'll bring the right person along, right? Like that's kind of why we turn to Jesus. Or sometimes we're like, well, I'm not well physically, so I'll turn to Jesus and he'll kind of make me healthy.
Yeah, it's like Jesus is the pathway to the American dream.
Oh, I hate that. And here's the thing, many of us, we know firsthand that Jesus does and will bless us in ways like this, right? He will bless us with abundance. He will bless us with health sometimes or good relationships. But he is not the means to an end. Jesus is the beginning, the middle, and the end.
And I bet Jesus hates being the middleman and not the goal.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think he also understands that some of these add-on kinds of things, especially the more serious ones, like health and relationships, how important these things are to us and how daunting it can feel when we don't have them. Like, for example, I'm a guy, and I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again, but like guys, like most of us are terrible, aren't we? Like when we get a cold. I actually, like my wife, when she gets a cold, like if she can't even stand, she can still like manage everything in life. If I have like sniffles that are going to be gone in 2 days, I'm pretty much like down for the count. I'm like whining, but I never ever think about my health until I'm not healthy. And then I'm a little bit not healthy and like the world is coming to an end.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Even with all I've been through with my cancer, when I'm healthy, I tend to forget where God took me and where I've been and kind of take that for granted. In 2000, I was diagnosed with endometrial carcinoma, and I'd been having some issues, and the doctor did a exploratory surgery and ended up doing a hysterectomy, and they found cancer on my uterus, my fallopian tube, my cervix, and then it had kind of eaten its way into my abdominal wall and just kind of spread from there. And so from 2000 to 2013, I did chemo and radiation, and then my biggest issue from about 2009 to 2013 was that I'd had so much chemo that it had really damaged my kidneys, and so I did dialysis. But since then, I've been pretty good. But I wrote some notes down because I knew I would forget that during 2000 to 2013, I had cancer on my uterus, my ovaries, my fallopian tubes, my liver, my cervix, my stomach, my pancreas, my esophagus, the roof of my mouth, and behind my eye. Ugh. And I'll be honest that when Rob contacted me last week to talk about this, I didn't want to do it. I don't like talking about it, and like I said before, I'm just not super comfortable. And so I was in Worcester, and I practiced like the whole way in my car of like how I was going to tell him no. And so I called him. I'm like, hey, I'm at Starbucks in Worcester, and do you want anything? And I'll bring you something if you want it. And I'm just trying to butter him up so that he would
If you want to butter me up next time, you got to get like a venti, not like the grande.
I would have brought you like 8 ventis if you would have just taken no as an answer. So I came here with like the full intention of I'm not doing this, and I'm telling him no. And like an hour later, I walked out fully committed to doing this. And he has that way, I guess. And so I just didn't feel like God really wanted me to share, or I didn't know it was in my head or what, but I just needed like that stirring or that sign from him that this was the right thing to do and to talk about this. And so when I got home, I remembered that when I was first diagnosed, I only did it for like 6 months or so, but I had kept a journal. And so I had to find it, and I looked in closets, and I remember telling Rob, I know it's here somewhere, I need to find it. And I found it in a Rubbermaid bin that was underneath our bed, and I opened to this, and I wrote this in February of 2000, and it's just one day that I wrote it. But when you listen to it, and then you think about what we're talking about now, it was kind of like my aha God moment of him kind of hitting me up the head saying, hey, you need to share this. So this is from February of 2000, and it says, I am one bald, bloated, nauseated chick. I've had chemo for 6 days straight and am miserable for it, and every inch of my body hurts. From my head to the tips of my toes, I hurt. It's been 2 days since I've been able to keep anything down, but I must say, though, that I'm loving the look of my slimmer thighs. Gotta keep a sense of humor while I muddle through this cancer-filled muck. But the aches of my body are nothing compared to the aches of my soul, and I'm alone. I yearn for a touch, not a physical one, but a spiritual one. If I could only hear something from God. And lately I felt like I've prayed and prayed for just a small sign that he hears me, and I'm not going at this alone, but nothing, nada, zip. Am I praying in vain? Does he hear my cry? Am I not crying loud enough? I desperately want to hear him, or see him. Just a simple reminder that he is with me would work. I laid in bed today and played a game with my Bible. I decided to lay it on my lap, and wherever it opened would be the verse for the day. Just my luck, it landed on a book of the Bible I can hardly pronounce and one I've never even read. My eyes went directly to Zephaniah 3:17, and it said, "The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you, and he will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing." How I ache to sing and how I long to be in his love. I've watched TV nonstop, sometimes actual educational TV, and sometimes reality TV that I'm really embarrassed to admit I'm watching. But while watching, I saw a commercial for the Olympics, and the message of the commercial was aiming for the prize. In this case, the prize was a medal, gold, silver, or bronze, and I lay here wondering, what prize am I aiming for? Is it the prize of a cure, remission, a nice long head of hair, an hour of not feeling nausea? I think I'm aiming for a bigger prize, and it's the prize of Jesus. I guess the part I'm missing here is I need to be quiet. I need to trust in him to get me where he wants me to be. Sometimes for a control freak like me, it's the hardest thing to do, to lay here and wait for him to do his work. Being brave, strong, and trusting is the only thing I've got left right now. I just hope he gets a move on because this girl's getting impatient.
Wow. So while the idea of getting healthy isn't like a small thing, it's still an add-on, right? Like the ultimate prize, like you said, there's Jesus. Mm-hmm. But man, like think of over these last few years, without your health, like all the things, I mean, even over just the last year, all the things that have happened that have just been awesome. Like, who was at the worship event here last year? This place was so packed out, and people just like worshiped their faces off for like, I don't know, an hour and a half. It was awesome. We actually have another one coming up on 9/11. It's going to be amazing. But without you kind of like having that vision and pushing that never would have happened. Or the blood drive we did just before Easter, right? Like it was like the biggest blood drive maybe ever in this region, and that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't said, hey, like, let's do another blood drive. And we actually had to fight the Red Cross to get them to like make it a big number. Yep. We actually have another blood drive coming up here in July, right?
July 5th.
July 5th. So if you want to like save people's lives, come give blood July 5th. It's going to be awesome. And so those things were great. And those wouldn't have happened if you hadn't got your health back.
Right.
But even with even with those great add-ons, this last point that we want to share is still true, and it's this. Jesus is the prize. If someone could pen the words that Amy penned as she was battling cancer, as she was hoping and praying for health that may never ever come, how much more should we embrace this, right?
And whether we die at 20, 40, or 80, we all still die. But Jesus in God's kingdom and the part of us that lives on is eternal and so much more important than our add-ons, because Jesus really is the ultimate prize.
Think about that. Jesus is the ultimate prize.